We are in London playing 1-2 at the Hippodrome. We are doing some sightseeing and playing poker while on this trip. We play poker in a bunch of different European countries, so if that sounds interesting to you and you want to check them out from the table view, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button. It'd be much appreciated. We're walking up now. Let's see how it goes.
It's night 2. We're heading to the Hippodrome. Last night didn't go too well. Kind of just played for fun. Ended up getting coolered at the very end. I ran my flop top set into a wheel draw that got there on the river. So, pretty crazy out here. I'm gonna go play and wish for better luck. Hopefully I don't get caught filming.
This was a gorgeous property with a very old-timey feel, not to mention it was very centrally located. I'll go ahead and give an in-detail review at the end of the video, so stay tuned for that. The first hand in the Hippodrome. I have pocket jacks in the small blind, plus one player limps, and it folds back around to myself. With such a nice hand, I hope to get at least one caller and make it $12 to go. One caller is exactly what I get. The big blind folds, and a plus one player that limped calls. We are headed heads up into the flop. Flop is 8-5-9 rainbow. Not a horrible board for my limp calling opponent. I go ahead and bet out 15 to protect my overpair, and it turns out he just doesn't like the board too much and he's going to go ahead and find a fold. Second hand. I have King 10 of spades under the gun. This hand warrants a raise from here, and I make it 10 pounds. Only the button calls. Flop is 4-4-9 rainbow. Don't pay attention to the guy chucking chips in the top left corner. He folded and was just trying to catch me off guard. And it worked. I c-bet this board since I have all the premiums and the button calls. Turn is the jack of spades. I think this is a card that is going to favor our opponent more than ours. So I decide to pump the brakes here and check, because after all I have king high. The button checks back. River is a 10 of diamonds. And now with the way this hand played out, I think I'm going to go for some value. Extremely thin value, mind you. So I bet 20 and our opponent is going to find a fold. And we scoop. We called America and they sent us some Cowboys for backup. Hijack limps, I raise it up to 12 from the cutoff and the button calls. I'm going 3 ways into the flop. Flop is 5-8-10 monotone. All of clubs, and I don't have the king of clubs. Hijack checks to me. This isn't my favorite board, but my Cowboys are still very strong here. So I bet 20 for protection, and to deny equity against a flush draw. Button folds, and so does the hijack. And I'm gonna scoop here. Yeehaw! Pocket 7's in the small blind. There are 4 limpers to myself, so I decide on a raise of 15 quid, which is not enough to play out of position. Everyone calls. I kind of realized when I did it that this sizing will accomplish absolutely nothing but to give me headaches in about 45 seconds as everyone calls. We head 4 ways into a flop that is 8-4-3 with 2 hearts and a spade. I bet $20 and am quickly going to get re-raised by the player next to act. He makes it 50 quid to go. It folds back around to myself. For this small of a sizing, considering how much is already in the pot, we're not folding this bet. It's so hard to put our opponent on any hand since I screwed up and didn't make a better pre-flop sizing. He could be fast playing an 8 here, have a flush draw with a pair, so I'm very angry at myself going into the turn as I make the call, which is the 3 of diamonds, pairing the board. Is this a bad card? Given how many 3s would play bottom pair on a terrible board like this, it wouldn't be the worst idea. Given the action, and if he put me on overs, he might think any pair on this board is good. And now with bottom pair turning into trips, we beat almost nothing. Some random 5x holdings, but I don't see him playing any of those this way, so I check. When my opponent bets 100 pounds, I nope out of there, and we're gonna have to fold here, waiting for a better spot. I played this hand very poorly, and it all began pre-flop, and then it just slowly started snowballing from there. I have ace-king offsuit in the small blind. There are 2 limpers, and the button raises it up to 10 pounds. From there, I raise it up to 25 quid, and only the button calls. Flop is 3 Jack 8 rainbow. This board is about as dry as British cooking. So I think this board favors our opponent a lot more. He has all the draws and all the pairs on the board. He could have a good amount of suited connectors. I check and the button bets 25. I fold for some reason. I don't have a backdoor flush draw, but there are still a lot of good turn cards in the deck that weren't me calling in here. So in hindsight, this is a very, very bad laydown. I pick up pocket 8s in the cutoff. Low jack makes it 7. Hijack calls. This is an interesting position for me. I could raise because the opening was extremely weak, and my hand is at least flipping with a fair amount of hands he could be opening with, but we decide on a more cautious route and just flat call here in order to set mine. And the button's gonna call as well. Flop is King 4-5 Rainbow, which actually isn't too bad of a hand for me. I have second pair to the board, and I don't know how many kings he'd be representing. So when the low jack checks, everyone checks this one around and makes me think that king didn't connect with anyone. And once the flop checked through, I'm feeling alright about my hand. Better yet, the turn is a 7 of spades, so we still have second pair to the board. Low jack goes ahead and bets 15. This could be a line that a weak king could be playing, but still that price is too good to not call with what is effectively second pair. So I go ahead and make the call, and the button folds. We're headed heads up into the river. River is a 2 of clubs, an absolute brick. Low jack is gonna check, and I run through things in my head. Maybe I could target a random middle pair, but I think I'm more likely to run into a bad king. So I go ahead and take my showdown value and check it back, and yeah, I'm good here. I don't know what he had, but we're scooping. This next one I start filming a bit late, so that's why I don't have the picture in the top left. I have 8-5 offsuit and didn't realize that I'm in the big blind. Usually back home in the States I chop this because our time on this earth is finite. Oh, and because, by the way, they don't do a chop here. Actually, nowhere in Europe does, and the rake is extremely high. I'll tell you guys all about it at the end of the video, of all the things that I liked and disliked from my time playing in London. So yeah, I started filming late, and what I meant to say before I got sidetracked is I have 8-5 offsuit, and what do you know? I flop trips, 8-8-9 with 2 hearts and a diamond. I check in the big blind, and so does everyone else. I don't really remember, I didn't know I was going to be playing this hand, let alone flopping a monster. Turn is ace of hearts, I think. I can't really tell, it was a limp pot. But I really hope he still has an ace, so I throw out 5 quid, and a player in middle position calls. River is another 9, improving us to a full house. But the bottom one, I bet 15 targeting any ace X holdings, and instead the opponent folds and we scoop.
Dude, it's hot as hell in there. So I pretty much came outside to do a little mid-session update. Some decent hands, nothing really crazy. Kind of short, so I don't feel like just punting it off with a bluff, especially when a couple of them are playing pretty deep. Yeah, it's pretty much getting a breath. About to head back up in there. Table's not too great, not a lot of action. I like the spot because I can't get really puffed filming, so that's why we haven't really asked for a table change.
That little break I just took outside must have worked because the first hand I pick up from break is them a couple of pocket kings. Under the gun +2 raises it to 7 pounds. And I go ahead and 3-bet this one to 20. It folds back to the initial raiser, and he goes ahead and calls. We go heads up into the flop. Flop comes Queen, Queen 7, Rainbow. I think this is an alright flop for me. I have most of the stronger queens blocked. And Ace Queen probably would have 4-bet me when I'm basically min-raised him. So I decide on a bet of 15 quid, and for that price, he calls. The turn is the Ace of Diamonds. This isn't a scare card per se. I have blockers to Ace King. Ace Queen would have bet the flop, so I think my kings are still good here. And for that reason, I bet 35. And he's going to find the fold button relatively quickly. Maybe a smaller pocket pair is what makes the most sense to me. In this hand, I have Ace King offsuit in the +1 position and raise it up to 10. I get 2 callers, the +2 player and a late position player. Flop is Jack 10-7 Rainbow. Going multi-ways, especially myself as the EP raiser, I hate this board. It doesn't line up with my range, and it definitely goes with one of theirs. For that reason, I go ahead and check it, and it goes ahead and checks around. Turn is another 7. I bet $10 taking back whatever I just said. Maybe ace-king is good here. +2 calls the 10, and late position folds. We go heads up into the turn. And our prayers have been answered. The river is an ace. I go ahead and raise it up to 25 here, and to my surprise, I get quickly raised by the +2 player. He goes ahead and rips it all in for 95. Now I'm kind of sick to my stomach. I think my hand is too strong to fold here. I river top and get raised a decent amount. Maybe I could be excited here, but no, I hate it. I feel like I'm going to be sick, but I go ahead and stick my money in, and to no one's surprise, I'm showed an obvious 7 with a 6 for turn trips. That one kind of hurt. Definitely could have gotten away there. This game has been playing hella nitty, and I don't know why I called. I have king 10 offsuit in the big blind. Under the gun raises to 10, and there are 2 callers before it gets to me. Since I'm closing the action, I decide on a call as well. Flop is 7-6-4 with 2 diamonds. I check, and everyone seems to like that and checks. Turn is a 4 of diamonds. I check. This is just a bad card. Bad because it pairs the board and has 3 diamonds. Luckily for me, I have the king of diamonds. So we all check again. River is a king, which just put us from check fold mode to thinking about betting for value. I bet $10 and get raised to 30, which is the milkiest bet sizing ever. I call, he shows king, queen of hearts, and it feels like I'm getting pounded for my pounds. And the final hand is a complete punt. I rip in my last 40 quid all in with king 6 suited and get completely felted. I don't even remember the run out. I don't think I was good at any point. It was a frustrating session.
I just finished up in for about 350 pounds, which is close to like $500. Thought about buying back in, but Europe's expensive and we want to do some cool stuff while we're here. So I'm just gonna take the L. Not the best game either. That's just part of the reason why I don't want to buy back in. Not a lot of action, so it is what it is. We had fun last night though. That game was fun. Shame I didn't get that one recorded. But oh well. Glad to say this vlog's international now. That's cool. I don't even know how great an episode it's gonna make, but we'll include it.
That was a pretty short session. I played for about 3 hours, give or take. I could have bought back in, but then I played the night before to no success, and then it ended up just killing my whole day the day after. So I didn't really like that while I was trying to kind of, explore some stuff where I've never been. So I ended up going back tonight, and I probably would have made an exception to the rule if the game was really good, but it wasn't. So I just decided to get out of there. So I took a trip. So I took an L at the expense of the trip, but I think it benefited my trip. This isn't the only place I played at in London. I played at one other called the Grosvenor over by the Bayswater Terminal, and I enjoyed that spot a lot. It just coincidentally happened to be by my Airbnb, like a 45-second walk. So that was good or bad, depending on your perspective. So what I like about the Hippodrome, one thing about that place is they can't pitch. They deal off the top to every player. It's pretty weird. I guess they're not allowed to chuck it, so it's a little trippy at first. But what I like about the Hippodrome was it's very centrally located. It's in a safe location, so you can be walking out there with all hours of the night with stacks probably. Just London as a whole is very safe. You only need your California ID to check in, which is cool. So which you shouldn't be really carrying your passport all the time anyway, just because you could lose it or get pickpocketed, so you don't need it there, just a California ID. They have a bunch of tables there, about 15, which is good. A good variety of games. I think I saw 1, 2, 2, 5, and 5, 10 playing, as well as PLO. I forgot the stakes for that. And games are running all day because they have so many tables. Oh, also, you're not expected to tip the dealers either, because that's just an American thing, but I still did anyways, because America. And they just seem to enjoy that. The cons of this place, not too many. I mean, if you manage to find this place like I did during a heat spell in London, it's you're gonna be dying upstairs just because the heat rises
so it gets hot and miserable with no like air moving at all. Even the windows are just no help at that point. Let's see, you're gonna basically get background checked when you enter, which isn't fun. They ask about your occupation and your income, I believe, but that's not just a this place kind of thing. That's kind of a general theme across Europe. And I didn't like the tables there. The tables had some weird type of vinyl, like waterproof, like canvas. So that wasn't very enjoyable. Didn't feel very good to touch. And I mean, the cards slid all right, but they weren't the best. Also, the rake is very high, which is another thing that's going to be running common to Europe. But I mean, if you factor in the not tipping thing, I kind of maybe breaks even. But still, it's pretty notable increase. As for the Grosvenor or Bayswater, it's more of a card room feel with 3 poker tables. What I liked about that place, it was good service, like nice home game atmosphere. You can run it multiple times. Food is good, and you're in a much less crowded area when you leave the establishment, and that can be a good thing or bad thing depending on how you look at it. The things I didn't like about this place was they used a racetrack design, which I'm just never a fan of those, so maybe you like them, it's good for you. And they do not allow backpacks, which is more notably a bummer when I'm traveling, but I do wear one when I'm playing poker. Not all the time though, so that was kind of a bummer. But overall, I really enjoyed my time in London, and I can't wait to go back just to play and see a bunch of other stuff outside of London too. The rate there was incredibly high too. I think it was the same as the one at the Hippodrome. Was 10 pounds, capped at 5% of the pop.